Matthew chapter 13 is a chapter of parables. Last time we talked about the parable of the weeds, and now we're ready for verse 31. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like. That's a phrase that he uses quite a bit. And we don't probably get it because we've never known a time when we didn't know what the kingdom of heaven was. But this first century audience that he was talking to, they did not have the same idea of the kingdom of heaven that you and I probably have. One of the prevailing ideas for Jews in Jesus' day was that the Messiah would show up and he would be the general of the commander-in-chief of a huge force that would overthrow the Roman rule and establish Jewish rule for the world, not just for Jerusalem and Israel. Okay, on this side of the cross, if you've read the book of Revelation, it's fairly clear, even amid the prophetic and symbolic language of the book of Revelation, where John does the best he can with our language to express and talk about things that really go well beyond what our language is capable of. That Jesus will return, the Messiah, and he will rule. Every knee, the Apostle Paul says, will bow, and every tongue confess that Jesus is Lord, and I do not believe that to be symbolic language. Okay, but the Jews of Jesus' day thought of the Messiah, the Anointed One, the Christ, as a political figure that would free them from Rome's dominion over them. And so for them, the kingdom of heaven was the coming of the Messiah for this political and even military dominion. But that's not the kingdom of heaven. And so Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his field. Now, you may have seen a mustard seed before. I have never lived in a part of the country where mustard is grown, or at least where it's grown very much. There's probably somebody out there growing mustard plants, but I've not ever encountered them. But the mustard seed is, it's the smallest seed I've ever seen. It's about the size of a grain of sand, maybe a little larger. A man took that seed and planted it in his field. Though it is the smallest of all your seeds, yet when it grows, it is the largest of garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and perch in its branches. All right, what's the point? Something tiny causes, or the outcome of something tiny is very large. And it's very disproportionate to the size of the seed that was planted. All right, so the kingdom of heaven is like that. I don't think we're talking about, the specifics of the kingdom of heaven. I think we're just talking about the one idea. It starts tiny and grows huge. Well, okay, let's think about that historically for a minute. When the kingdom of heaven was brought to earth, it was one man, Jesus, recognized by a few people, including Mary, his mother, John the Baptist. And then he began to acquire followers, 12 men that he designated as apostles, and crowds that followed him. But not everyone in the crowd that followed him was following him because of his standards and ideas and concepts. Many of them followed him because he fed them, he healed them. Are these wrong reasons for an attraction to Jesus? I don't think so. But I think there's a big difference between someone who is a true disciple of Jesus and someone who's curious and looking for something good from him. Okay, you already get that. I don't have to pound that drum very long. But the point is, it started so small, but in the book of Acts, the Christians are accused of turning the world upside down. It took a few hundred years, but when Constantine was the Caesar of Rome, he decreed that Rome was a Christian nation, that it would be a nation of Christians. Now we look at the world and we've kind of regressed, where Christianity appears to be in the minority. I read and hear on social media and in the internet that the numbers of Christians and the numbers of folks who actually attend church has decreased on a percentage basis over time, and I don't doubt that. I mean, I look around and realize, yeah, just this doesn't mean people are Christians, but just the one indicator of church attendance. Those of us that attend church are very much in the vast minority. And this is not just true in Las Vegas, where you would expect that, or New York City, or Los Angeles, or it's across the board. However, that principle of a tiny seed becoming a large enough tree to be the home for birds, I think what starts small has pretty amazing potential. Okay. And he told him another parable. This is in verse 33. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed into a large amount of flour until it worked all through the dough. You don't have, I am not a baker, but my daughter, Jenny, is. She loves it and she's really good at it. She knows you don't put equal parts of yeast and flour for bread. You take a little bit of yeast for a lot of flour. So what's the point? One of the points, I think, is don't be discouraged by finding you're in the minority in the world. But it only takes a little bit to infect the larger numbers of people. We have drifted and are in some people would say we're in a free fall away from the values on which our country was founded, Judeo-Christian values, biblical values, some a little bit distorted. Okay, I'll give you that. But the point is, we started out with the leaven of God's design and flourished. And in spite of the fact that things seem to be pretty whacked out right now, economically and politically, socially, some would say environmentally, but I find that a little bit difficult to swallow in the face of actual science. That's just my opinion. But don't forget, it only takes a little yeast to leaven the whole loaf. If you're the yeast, and you are, you're going to feel like you're a little teeny piece of the whole picture, and you probably are. But don't be discouraged by that. And then Matthew records in verse 34, Jesus spoke all these things to the crowd in parables. He did not say anything to them without using a parable. And here's why in verse 35. So was fulfilled what was spoken through the prophet. I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter things hidden since the creation of the world. Well, that's a quote from the book of Psalms. You got a footnote in your Bible, so you can see that. Psalm 78, verse 2. When Jesus was teaching, he already knew something that really good preachers know. But not all preachers are really good preachers. Duh. He knew that people's minds are engaged with narrative. Okay. In verse 36, then he left the crowd and went into the house. His disciples came to him and said, explain to us the parable of the weeds in the field. They didn't quite get that. And he answered, the Son of Man, the one who sowed the good seed is the Son of Man. That's Jesus. The field is the world, and the good seed stands for the sons of the kingdom. The weeds are the sons of the evil one, and the enemy who sows them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the harvesters are angels. As the weeds are pulled up and burned in the fire, so it will be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will weed out of his kingdom everything that causes sin and all who do evil. They will throw them into the fiery furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has ears, let him hear. There is a hell that is real, and people will go there. I think it was C.S. Lewis who said, God really will send no one to hell. He will simply observe the decision they made to turn away Jesus. And for those who turn Jesus away, their eternal destiny is a real hell. Will there be real flames and real fire? I don't know. Here's the thing, though. We can be sure of this. It is a place, whether it's physical, symbolic, I can't tell you, but a place where God is not. Where Satan and all his angels will have been sent. So there's nothing about hell that will be good at all. It's all bad, all the time, for all of eternity. I don't want to go there, and neither do you. But the point is, Jesus is seeking and inviting people, instead of hell as their destiny, into the kingdom of heaven. You've said yes to Jesus. I can't imagine anybody who hasn't would be, clicking this up. And because of that and the grace of God, the kingdom of heaven is your destiny and mine. Lost a dear friend yesterday as I'm recording this. His body had given out. But the moment that his physical life ended, I'm totally convinced that Scott woke up in the arms of Jesus, renewed, restored, complete. And I'm looking forward to the fact that not because of anything I did or because of anything I'm capable of, but because of God's grace and love, I'll see Scott again in the kingdom of heaven. Well, sorry for going long. I'll see you next time on Soul Care with Stevie Boy.